Hello and welcome to another episode of the Slow Crafting Podcast. My name's Nadine and I'm coming to you today from the northwest of England near Manchester. It's been a long time since I recorded. I think just after I put the last one up, the world went a bit strange, and I spent several weeks obsessed with what was happening in the Ukraine and everything else, and just couldn't craft, couldn't do anything, was just sat watching news after news after news article. So yes, I got a bit off plan then, and then when I just got back into crafting, my girls and my partner all came down with coronavirus. Luckily everybody was fine. They had relatively mild symptoms, and my youngest daughter, that we were most worried about, because she's asthmatic, seemed to breeze through it, but we were very good at quarantining and not doing anything. I, however, was the only one that didn't test positive, but I felt worse than anybody. So who knows what was going on there. I spent 2 weeks not really doing very much at all. Yes, so they're all better and back to normal. And then what else? Oh yeah, then we had school holidays. So yes, and my partner's just started working day shifts now after having the last 10 years working night shifts. So that's taking some getting used to. So it's all a little bit all over the place at the minute. So bear with me if this podcast is a little bit more disjointed and garbled than usual. Right, I can't even remember what I was showing you last time. Possibly this cardigan, which I think I've just finished. Yes, I think I finished this and another one. And if you remember, I've not put any buttons on, and I thought it would be fine. It's not fine. I've got a little bit of ribbon in my pocket because after a while it starts slipping back off my shoulders because it's so heavy, because there's so much yarn involved. So I have to poke a bit of ribbon through the edges. I can't even do it now. Try to look at myself on screen and do it at the same time. Obviously when I'm doing this for wearing properly, I pay attention to where I'm poking it through to make sure it lines up and it's even. So yeah, poke it through and then just put a little bow in it, and I can keep it, it keeps it on my shoulders there and doesn't look too weird. And because it's crochet, it pokes through quite easily without having to make an actual loop for it. So yeah, and I could find a bit of coordinating ribbon should I felt so inclined, but this was I need to go out to pick them up from school. I know, I'll just get this ribbon and do it that way. Seems to work for my blue cardigan as well, because I didn't put any buttons on that. I think eventually I will put some buttons on, well, some press studs I think, on the blue cardigan, and maybe some buttons on the outside so it looks like it's got buttons. Just because that is so heavy that falls off your shoulders as well. But yes, I thought that was quite a nifty hack, and saved sewing on 1,000,000 buttons and making 1,000,000 buttonholes. Always a bonus for lazy people like me. Feeling quite posh today because I've got my tea in a teapot. I'm not posh though, because I'm still drinking it out of a mug. But yes, right, so that's anything else that I was working on last time? I'm trying to think. The Better World dress that I was crocheting, that I was ripped back. I've finished that, although I don't know where I've put it. I think it's upstairs in the cupboard. And that's because I was ripping it back so I could wear it as a jumper and doing the body straight down. It still, for some reason, feels quite A-line in the body. I don't know why, but less so than it did before, and makes me feel less voluminous in my personal space than it did previously. It's nice, but I'm not in love with it yet. So we'll see. Now it's sort of that half and half weather where sometimes it's sunny and sometimes it's cold. I might get more wear out of it. So yes, I might fall in love with it then. What else? Oh, the Tumbling Ivy shawl pattern that was due for release. I released it. It was briefly very, very popular. Got to #1 in the Hot Right Now. Obviously, whilst it was a free pattern, once it was a paid for pattern, it went ooh and slipped back down. But I was expecting that anyway. I'm just giddy and over the moon that other people want to knit it. So yes, it's always nice to see people showing interest in things that you've designed and made. So that's nice. What else? In fact, I had a sale of it, an actual paid for sale of one just this morning. So that was nice to wake up to, a notification for that. It's never going to make me a millionaire or one of the big names in knitting, but if it lets me buy wool occasionally, that works for me. Right, yes, I think I showed you a bag of wool that I was going to be making another shawl with. So yeah, this is a pattern that's due for release soon. I had hoped to get it out by the end of April. I think it might be beginning of May at this rate, because today is the last day of April and I'm not going to get it released today because I still have to take a couple of pictures, and the last couple of days it's been too sunny to do that. So it's all tested. I've seen some lovely versions from the test knitters in completely different colourways, and that always makes me smile, because in your head, well, in my head, I have a vision of what it's going to be like, and to see somebody else's interpretation of it is just brilliant. It's like, I would never have put those colours together, but oh my goodness, that looks beautiful. And occasionally, that looks so much nicer than my original one. But I think I said last time that I wasn't as in love with this version of the shawl as the original one that I'd done. But looking at it now that it's finished, I'm very happy with it. So it's quite a big one. It's whoa. Ooh, yes. So it's quite a simple design with some basic lace and mostly garter stitch and my favourite elongated triangular shape. But yes, this is the Yeoman Hay shawl, and it's about 800 metres worth, maybe just over, so it is quite a big shawl. But it's really good for using up scraps and half skeins and those odd 50-gram balls that you've picked up because it was beautiful but didn't really have a use for. So yes, that should be coming soon. That was interesting because I set that up for testing just before we all came down with COVID. So trying to get, I know I didn't test positive for COVID, but I had massive brain fog, and trying to get my head round making corrections and everything else was just a challenge, to say the least. Yes. So the wool that I used for this, the green was a hank of British wool in the khaki nep colourway by Woolly Knits, one of my favourites. It's very light fingering, but then most of these other bits are, I think these are sock yarn scraps. That definitely is. This is a merino, like baby wool, and then the orange is from another skein or hank of the British wool from Woolly Knits, but in the burnt orange colourway. But I only used a tiny bit of that. So yeah, 4-ply fingering weight shawl. Oh, honestly, I've forgotten how to do this. Not that I was very good in the first place, but I'm even scattier now. What else have I been doing? Oh, I've got another finished object. Now, I hadn't done any weaving for absolutely ages. I think the last thing that I wove was a scarf type shawl thing for my mum that I wove one Christmas. So possibly Christmas 2020. Yes, because it wasn't last year, it was the year before. So yes, about 2 years with not weaving, which I think my other half was a bit, why did I buy you a weaving loom as a present if you've not used it? But obviously when you have 2 years pretty much of homeschooling, you don't really have time for doing all the crafts that you enjoy, so it got put to one side. But while we were, I don't know when I did it, honestly, my memory is terrible. I think I warped the loom after they'd gone back to school after having COVID, but got it finished just at the very beginning of the Easter holidays, possibly. Right, I'll show you what I was weaving. It just very simple, plain tabby weave, but I warped the loom with some old stash. It was a lamb's wool blend that I'd bought sometime in the early 2000s. So it was just like a big box commercial yarn, but I'd originally bought it to make a jumper for my mum, I think, and then not done that. So I'd used it for knitting a few baby jumpers as christening gifts, and still had some left. And I'd always thought, oh, I'll use that for the warp for some hand spun that I made a couple of years ago. So the hand spun was some mohair that was a mix of dyed locks from a local mohair producer who isn't currently producing yarns at the minute, but then also some mixed in with some plain undyed locks of mohair that my mother-in-law had turned up with one day back in time before children. I think it was when I first got into spinning. She turned up with this dirty bag of fleece and went, "Here you go, I've brought you a present." So I was very diligent and I cleaned it and washed it and prepped it and everything, and then it sat to one side for about 6 years before I did anything with it. So then I knew that the dyed locks that I had that were dyed in rainbow colours wouldn't go very far, so I mixed them in with some of the undyed locks, and it made a beautiful yarn. If I can find the picture of it, of how it was when I'd finished the yarn, I'll put that in here. But the finished shawl is, find the right end to start with the right end of the rainbow. So starts off red through orange, yellow, very long section of green, into blue, then indigo, and a violet. And I tried a new fringing technique, well, new to me fringing technique. I've not made the tidiest job of it, but I quite like it because I always struggle with what to do with fringe. So I'm not massively keen on fringed items, but I quite like that as a finish. So my plan, because it's not actually finished at the minute, is to turn it into a poncho, which basically means putting the two ends together, sewing maybe halfway along, and then having it drape. I can't really show you. You'll have to wait and see, but it's very minimal structure and messing about with it. I won't need to cut it at all, and hopefully it'll look nice, but we will see. So that's that. Yeah, it's lovely and it's textured, and you can see all the little loopy bits and locks poking out. So I really enjoyed weaving. There's just something so calming and repetitive about it, and because I'm not having to follow a pattern or anything, I was just doing play and weave. Get down. Sorry, the dog's come to say hello. Yes, I know you're beautiful, but get down. I had given her a chew to try and distract her, but clearly I've been talking for too long and she's absolutely trashed away through it. We'll see how far I get with chatting. Right, so that's that for finished objects. My work in progress that I'm loving at the minute is actually a crochet crochet cardigan, because I enjoy doing this one so much. I'm like, oh, I need to do more crochet garments. They're really fun. So here we have the beginning of it. This is all like one piece. This isn't just how wide it is. It will be folded in half and be more like that wide, maybe a little bit wider with the button bands on. But look at all those ends I've got to weave in already. Oh, this is the only downside of this pattern so far. So look at that. I'm absolutely in love with it. I love brown anyway, but oh, so pretty. So the wool I've used for this, the sort of beigey brown, is it's some Icelandic wool actually. Oh, it's not from Iceland, it's from Wales, but it's from a flock of Icelandic sheep. It's from a shop called The Naked Spinner in a little town called Crochet in North Wales. And I picked it up when we were on holiday a few years ago, and I've got 3 skeins of it, 300-gram skeins of it, and wasn't sure what to do with it. And then when I saw this cardigan, I'm like, yes, I think we'll do it on that. So this is the Not So Granny cardigan, I think. I'll put the name of the pattern and the designer here because I can't be trusted to remember. And then the browns in the body of it, the darker browns, so this yellowy brown, the orangey brown and the dark brown. There's some merino nylon sock wool from Woolly Knits, which is left over from the Barn Dorm by Stephen West that I knit my dad last year. Yes, I think that's right. So using up stash, using up stuff I've had for a while. I'm hoping there's going to be enough because I didn't wait, because it's on a cone and that always makes it more difficult to work out how much your leftovers are. But hopefully it will look nice. It's a fitted cardigan and with buttons up the front. I think it's a round neck rather than a V-neck. So long since I actually looked at the pattern, because for ages you just do this until it reaches a certain length. So once I've got past me band at the hem and got into the body of it, I've not bothered looking at the pattern. I've just carried on going. I think I might make it, because I think I'm supposed to do it till it gets to about 30 centimetres, but I think I might keep going for another couple of centimetres, if not 4 or 5, just because I've got quite a long body, and I might want to wear it with trousers, and cropped jumpers for me don't go well with trousers, because then I have a muffin top poking out between the two. If I had high-waisted trousers, that would be one thing, but I don't. So I need slightly longer cardigans. I'm a bit waffly now. Yes, so that's coming on well. I think, I'm trying to think if I've got anything else on the go. I think I've got a pair of socks on the go that I started a couple of years ago, and then got the first one done and then abandoned it because they're just plain socks, plain vanilla socks. And I started on the second one of those, and I've got to the heel turn, but they're upstairs, they're boring, the vanilla socks. I'll probably drag them out next time. Yeah, I think that's it that I'm working on at the minute. Like I say, I spent ages not wanting to do crafting, and thinking it was a bit frivolous to be sat here knitting and being jolly by myself when much bigger things were going on out in the world. But now I've gone into actually making things is actually keeping me grounded, and yeah, making me not stress out too much about the world. So that rather melancholy note, I was going to talk about some craft books that I'd picked up, but I'll talk about those in another maybe a standalone episode actually. They're not new, they're delightful, and they're from the early 80s. I am very much showing my age with them, but like I say, I'll talk about them next time. I haven't actually done any mending, I don't think, because I couldn't bring myself to do that either. I know I've got some to do. Oh no, I tell a lie. I'm telling a massive lie. I did do some mending. I replaced the zip in my partner's shorts, which I thought was going to be a massive drama, but it turns out it wasn't, and he's wearing them and they fit and he hasn't damaged it or broken it or ripped it out yet. The only problem was I didn't have a zip the right size in stock, and I didn't want to order just order one random zip in the post. So I found some leftovers from when I'd been making a fancy dress costume for my youngest. Oh, that's something else I can put in. I don't think they'd done that last time. I can maybe put the fancy dress costume pictures in that I made for World Book Day. Yes. So anyway, the zip that was in the dress that I'd got to repurpose for a fancy dress outfit for my youngest was about 1 inch too long, but was the right size if I didn't put the button back on. So if I had the zip going all the way to the top rather than leaving the gap where the button fastened at the top of the shorts. I could have cut the zip and bound the edges so that the zip wouldn't pull off, but I didn't trust my other half not to just yank it up and completely rip the zip off. So I thought if I leave it with the original stoppers at the top, he's less likely to break it. He wasn't massively keen on the idea of not having the button at the top and having the zip go all the way to the top, because he wasn't convinced that they would stay up. He thought that the zip would constantly fall down and his shorts would fall down. But then when I pointed out that a significant number of women's garments, so skirts or trousers or whatever, fastened with just a zip, with no other fastening at the top, he actually thought, oh, maybe it might work then. But still, for the first several times he wore them, insisted on putting a belt on with them just in case. And then he realised, I think maybe one time he didn't put the belt on, and he went, oh, you were right, they have stayed up. The joys. Anyway, I'm waffling. The shorts worked, they were fine. He might even be wearing them today, actually. Yes, but I think that's about the only thing I mended. There's several things that are sat waiting on the pile for me to do. Yeah, nothing very interesting though. It's all burst seams and yeah, mostly burst seams, I think. Right, I shall get off and drink my tea and go give this dog some attention because she's looking at me with very sad eyes at the minute. Hopefully it won't be quite as long between podcasts this time. Like I say, I've got a plan for the next one. It was probably going to be mostly about vintage craft books because I do love them, especially Batsford ones. Anyway, enough of that. Hopefully you've all been doing nice crafty things and keeping yourself busy and keeping yourself busy. If you want to tell me about anything you've been making, please feel free. I'd love to be nosy. But until then, until the next time, I shall speak to you soon. Take care.